From the second this movie was announced and that Halle Bailey was cast not just as the next Ariel, but the first ever dark-skinned Ariel, which is something to absolutely celebrate, I was on board. I remember many people in my circles at the time were not happy with this change. But I saw nothing wrong with it from the start. It was ridiculous and it was perplexing. It was perplexing. It's been done before. Why be upset about it now? I believe adaptations and stories pertain to not one person, but to anyone, and anyone, no matter the color of their skin, can do an excellent job at that role or directing or whatever job or story you want to tell. I mean, look at Jim Gordon and the Batman. Nobody seemed too miffed about that now, did they? It's because it shouldn't and doesn't matter, because talent doesn't belong to any one person, but to anyone who seeks to further their own talent. That being said, Halle Bailey is a better Ariel than the cartoon version. At the very least, Halle Bailey is the best actress out of all of the actresses who have ever portrayed a live-action Disney princess. This movie, not just because of Halle Bailey, is a really fantastic film that stands all on its own, and I am honestly so amazingly shocked with how much I have fallen in love with The Little Mermaid. Literally, I have not stopped talking about it, which is why we are here. To talk about it. Have I finally found the one modern day Disney movie that I will likely obsess over and buy pop figures and other memorabilia and have everyone further question my masculinity? I believe so. This is a spoiler-free review for The Little Mermaid, so proceed with ease if you haven't seen the movie. And if you have seen the movie, proceed with ease. Here's the way this is going to work. I'm going to just give you all of the really standout great things about this movie, because there was a lot of good things about this movie, but I'm gonna give you the top prime, the cream of the crop. And then I'm gonna go over just a few little nitpicks. It's not many, but these are things that I feel like they didn't quite work with the movie or needed a little bit more work. But let me tell you one thing right now, I was fully captivated with this story. This movie simply works. Every explanation, every detail, every change, this movie is a symphony in of its own right. Don't get overhyped and be all wow about it, please. Like, I went in with high expectations, but I also went in knowing I was going to enjoy whatever they had presented, because this movie, from the very beginning, I believed in it, and it delivers. However, there are no Oscar-level performances or even visuals in the very least, but it's a solid movie with a solid cast and a solid story. This movie has its funny moments for the most part, but it's just insanely charming and super romantic. Oh my gosh. Is it romantic as heck? I was actually on the edge of my seat with the romance. It is insanely well done. If there's anything to take away from this movie, is that it is very wildly charming and quite romantic indeed. This movie is a real fairy tale movie. All right, so on to the good. First, the songs. Let's talk about those songs. Lin-Manuel Miranda did right by this movie. When Lin-Manuel Miranda was announced for this movie, I was just genuinely worried that he was going to ruin the movie by adding his own signature sound to OG movies, to OG songs that I don't think would have worked with his signature sound. They're OG songs, they are what they are. However, that didn't happen at all. The songs in this movie are amazingly well composed, staying true to the original sound, but also updating them slightly just to give them their own unique ear touch. All of the songs are so fun, and whenever my theater would hear the intros to these songs, everyone would sit up, buckle up, and embrace for a ride. And these songs are such good rides. The 3 new songs that Miranda wrote for this movie all worked. All 3. 3 for 3. What was that? To give you a little bit of a comparison, I didn't like the new songs that were written for the Aladdin movie. I didn't really think they fit tonally, stylistically. It didn't really fit with the rest of the movie or the music for the movie. They were good songs, yeah, but every time I heard the song Speechless, I was like, this doesn't fit. But I digress here. Each new song feels like a part of the original movie. Nothing feels shoehorned in for the sake of having a remake. A lot of you are going to be wondering, does Ariel get more than just one song? Yes, she does! The way they incorporate Ariel being mute but still manages to get her songs in, absolutely genius! And that sequence, that whole sequence is so insanely fun. Oh my gosh, might be one of my favorite songs in the whole movie. Ariel's Ballad? Oh my gosh, this girl has 3 reprises and it gets better each time. I refused to listen to A Part of Your World when they released it as part of the marketing promotion for this movie because I wanted to experience it fresh for the very first time in the theaters because this song is my favorite Disney princess song out of all of them. I love it. That and then Reflections from Mulan, but they fricked that movie up. But when I heard this song, A Part of Your World, in the theater for the very first time, woo! Halle Bailey! We will talk more about her soon. But she literally is Ariel and proves every time she speaks and every time she sings. And as soon as she sang this song, she sang this song. Her performance and her delivery for the song does the original song justice. Oh my gosh, I was tearing up by the end, sure. The reprise blew me away and actually had me crying for a few seconds. It's that powerful of a performance, vocally and physically. Her physicality when performing the song is insanely powerful. Oh my gosh. The rest of the songs and performers were great. Poor Unfortunate Souls was absolutely insanely fun to watch, and Melissa McCarthy she nailed it. She blew it out of the water. Didn't plan that pun, but it happened. As well as Eric's Ballad, but we will discuss one particular little nitpick from that one later on in this review. Next, the characters. First, we'll start with Ursula and how phenomenally scary she was. I was worried about Melissa McCarthy. We all were. But she delivered an excellent performance. We will talk more about the underwater scenes as I felt most main character had weirdly stiff performances whenever they were underwater, but they were fine whenever they were out or whenever they're allowed to be expressive, like in Poor Unfortunate Souls for Ursula. But I definitely think this isn't a huge factor in anything because Melissa McCarthy, Javier Bardem, and Halle Bailey all did wonderful in their roles. Melissa McCarthy, for once, was acting instead of being herself. She even allowed the role to be a little bit her own, as she did put a little bit of her own type of humor, but she was definitely reined in, and that really did work. Honestly, she was unrecognizable as Ursula, and it was really great to see. But speaking of Javier Bardem, King Triton, he did a really good job. He has two very big emotional moments at the very end of the movie. One with Sebastian and one with Ariel. Both moments are glorious, and I'm not gonna spoil what they are, but the one with Sebastian, that final moment for King Triton really brings the character to a full arc. The final line that Javier Bardem delivers, whoa man, that got me good. That was really well performed by Javier Bardem, and it was very convincing as not just a king, but a father who loves and wants to protect his child. Prince Eric, what a charming and adorable leading man. If Jonah Hauer-King doesn't get any more lead roles from this movie, that would be wild. It'd be along the same lines as Mena Massoud not getting any work off of Aladdin despite it making $1 billion and him having a great performance as Aladdin. It's just a sad situation, and I don't know what's going on there. Jonah Hauer-King is instantly likable from the first frame he appears on screen. He is his own man, but isn't annoying about it. In fact, he and Ariel complement each other, not just in romanticness, but in action scenes, and as a couple, and as individuals. Honestly, you can really see why Ariel likes this guy, and you can see why he likes Ariel. There's a lot of things that connect the both of them together that if you're not paying attention, you will miss. But there's a lot of good changes done to Eric that really just brings their story naturally together. It is wonderful. Eric does have a few moments because he's constantly getting into the water where half of his shirt would be open, and it would be during some just certain scenes that were like dramatic, and then he would turn around and half his shirt was open, and you could hear me and all the other people in the theaters were like, oh, Eric is back and 6 of them we see. Lastly, we have our Ariel. From her voice to how she acts to the hair to the fin design, Halle Bailey, once again, is Ariel. She embodies the spirit of Ariel within this entire movie, from beginning to end, even down to her singing. And Halle Bailey as a human being is such a wonderful, charming person as well. She just exuberates warmth, charm, kindness, compassion. Oh, if you've not seen videos of her interacting with little girls at Disney World, Oh my goodness. She honestly truly is a Disney princess. Halle Bailey nails this role and nails everything that I thought would expect out of an Ariel, and she has the most fun with it. There are certain bits where she is a little reserved in the role, but again, I think that's just playing it safe for the movie and how underwater was filmed, perhaps. But every time you see Ariel on screen, you can't help but giggle and be happy because Ariel is such a great person and such an amazing human mermaid being, honestly, and you just want to be her friend. You really do. You want to have her around. She is smart. She is brave, and she is a hero. They give her agency in this movie, and it is wonderful. And they're not annoying about it. Again, this movie has a natural way of how individuals would think and make choices. It's really well done. Ariel is hands down taken care of in this movie. Even when Ariel was mute, Halle Bailey shone right through. She was so expressive and so kind, and you could tell that through her performance. But once again, Halle Bailey is Ariel. Next, the story. To be honest, I don't fully remember the original story beat by beat, but I can tell you there are some changes, but it only makes sense. This movie is very much its own thing because of these changes. This movie is not a remake, it's its own adaptation of the classic fairy tale. That's what this movie is. Just to compare, The Lion King was a remake, right? This movie is a modern day adaptation. I think the pacing felt good, and I honestly have no complaints there. The movie isn't off the walls funny, but Sebastian does have one-liners throughout the film that Daveed Diggs delivers so funnily, so there is levity throughout. The story is mainly romantic. It's not sexy romantic, it's, just go on and just kiss the girl already type of romantic. The visuals in this movie were gorgeous. We all were really worried about those trailers, sure. I mean, I only saw 1 or 2 trailers. I kind of wanted to avoid the rest of the trailers, so I did, but I heard the VFX in some trailers were not that good. So I was a little worried. But you got nothing to worry about here anymore because the visuals are really, really well done. The underwater kingdom, you don't really get to see as much, so the underwater scenes are just okay, but they're very well lit, and they look refreshing. They look like a place I kind of want to go swim in. But there is one scene towards the very beginning with a telescope where I was like, did you run out of time and money to animate that properly? It looked so bad, and it lingered on screen. If I were Rob Marshall, I would have been like, all right, let's cut to something else. Let's cut to something else. I think everyone gets the gist. I think everyone gets the point. But the rest of the movie gets instantly better, and the mermaids, their designs. Okay, now let's get into the bad, which is just 3 tiny little nitpicks, just 3. First one, some underwater scenes, like I previously mentioned, some underwater scenes seemed to be a little stiff, especially those of Ursula or Ariel interacting with others. I truly wonder how they filmed these scenes, and if that's why, or if the director, Rob Marshall, maybe he didn't really know and he was just filming and they were like, let's fill in the rest as we go. If that's the case, it really does show sometimes. But just considering the fact that this is a story, they are presenting a story to you, and that, you know, this is probably how they speak under the water. I don't know. I'm not a merman, but it's just a tiny little nitpick. It's not really much. If you're not looking for it, you're not gonna see it at all. In fact, I kind of even forgot about it afterward. It just every so often I would be like, I think I would have liked a little bit more face acting in that one. And then I realized, they probably didn't know what the scene was gonna look like, so they're probably just playing it safe. The second was Eric's song, and sometimes even Ariel's songs. I loved their songs, don't get me wrong. It's just how they looked. The actors felt very music video-y to me. They had just that music video vibe and look. Whenever singers are exhausted and they're just singing their heart out and they're just moving and flailing about, kind of. There's a lot of that. They're not really in Ariel's. Ariel's just has that little bit of a sexy music video look to it, which is fine, but Eric's was so distracting because it was full on. It felt like you were watching a music video in the middle of a movie, and it kind of took me out of the movie just a tiny, tiny little bit. Then Eric was suddenly on a ship and he was soaked because it was raining and he was singing in the rain, and I was like, oh, never mind, keep going. Though his singing is amazing, but Rob Marshall can't really direct music videos, it turns out. And third, there's a very brief scene where Scuttle can breathe underwater, and it took me entirely out of the movie, and I feel like this is something that I should warn people about, because if they don't know about it beforehand, they might be like, what the frick is this? Honestly, I don't think Scuttle needed to be in that scene per se. I understand why they allowed her to breathe underwater opposed to Ariel going above the surface. There is a narrative reason for this, so I get it. And also, if mermaids can exist in this world, I guess so can a pelican who can hold its breath underwater for so long that it could talk. I didn't really like that choice, but again, if mermaids can exist, I guess so can this. It was brief. Thank God it was brief. Alright, so this movie is great for both girls and guys, as Eric's storyline is one that many men and women can relate to, and Ariel's storyline is one that many men could also relate with as well. There's action, there's drama, there's heartbreak and romance. This movie is truly a fun time and a phenomenal movie, and the ending was so strong. What a solid ending. They drove it home, man. The movie ends on a high note, a very, very high note, and you're left just insanely happy with tears cascading down your face. It's so good. But be sure to check out this movie right now in IMAX, perhaps maybe still in IMAX, who knows? Just go watch this movie. Go support it. I give The Little Mermaid 2023 a 9.5 out of 10. Honestly, I want more, so here's hoping for a sequel perhaps. I would be down for sure. If you've seen the movie, let me know down below what you thought. Spoiler free, please. If you haven't seen this movie, please go do it now. My Sushi Media links are in the description below, as well as the links to my Patreon and my website. And I will see you next time. You've just been Montified.